Hello, I'm Sandy Potter.
I'm Michael L., and welcome to Ageless Living. We're happy to be with you again from our home studios as we all continue to stay home and stay safe.
Yes, and we certainly hope you are all doing well. You know, one thing this extra time at home definitely provides us with is a whole lot of togetherness with our families, maybe for better or for worse.
Absolutely. And a situation is really the perfect study in relationship dynamics. So we brought in an expert to discuss just that and get some tips.
Yes, I was honored to speak with Dr. Patty Ann Dublin this week. Take a look at our virtual discussion. I'm honored to be joined by Dr. Patty Ann Dublin. She is an internationally recognized relationship and communication expert, speaker, and an author. She's been featured on numerous national and local media networks giving advice and tips, most recently about relationship dynamics and how they relate to us in this period of social distancing and self-quarantine. Dr. Patty Ann, thank you so much. It's wonderful to meet you.
Good morning, Sandy. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. You know, speaking of relationships, most of us definitely have a drastic increase in our togetherness time with our families right now. What are your tips for making the most of this time?
Okay, so it's a great question, and people used to think that you can't have too much family time. Well, we now know COVID-19, that's sort of kind of not accurate. So it's really interesting because if you think about the rhythm of life, if you're with your partner, chances are somebody gets up and goes out to work, or maybe somebody stays home and goes into their work office. But the children usually have a structure and a rhythm to their day as well. And even if they're young children, there's still a rhythm going on. That has all been upended, right? I call that a cataclysmic paradigm shift. And nobody was prepared for it. Don't let anybody tell you that they knew this was coming and that they have all the answers. So like every family, like every relationship, you really have to tailor what you're going to do to get through this intact in a way that works for you, for your specific relationship, for your specific family. So when you think about your relationship with your partner, if you don't have children, it's a very different dynamic, right? So let's try to go through all the different scenarios. If there's no children in the home, but both of you are now working from home, and let's face it, that's probably like never happened. There's still changes and shifts that you need to make. So what I would suggest is have a conversation with your partner about how you want to have the rest of this quarantine look like. Because chances are, if you're fighting and arguing or have the Cold War and nobody's talking, whatever you've been doing isn't working, right? It's not working. So what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So it's never too late to have communication. Now, let me just speak for a minute about communication. And this is relevant for everybody at any time during their relationship, but certainly it's critical during the pandemic. The ability to effectively communicate will determine the overall quality of your life. Whether you're successful in business, whether you're successful in your relationships with your partner or your friends, and if you're successful as a parent. So remember, you have to communicate. Do not assume that your partner knows that you need to be at work uninterrupted from 10 to 11 o'clock today, if you haven't communicated that to them. Especially if yesterday from 10 to 11 o'clock, you were watching Netflix. So they don't know your schedule. You have to share that with them, right? And this is a topic for another day, but I just want to say this, the main goal of communication. If I were doing a workshop with you now, I would ask everybody, write down what you think the main goal of communication is. And people will say to persuade, to get your point across. The main goal is to connect. Because if you don't make a connection, you can't do anything else. So, and the way that we most effectively connect, and this might sound counterintuitive, is to listen. we want to listen. Stephen Covey, in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the 5th habit was listen to understand first, then to be understood. So already I'm hoping people listening are like, wow, that's a tool. I was trying to listen so I could explain myself. So change that. Help me understand where you're coming from. All right. So if you've been having issues during the pandemic, keep that in mind. Now, let's go back to the workday. So if you and your partner are working without children, start each day with the intention of what you need to get done for yourself. Like prioritize it, the absolute most important things. Then have a conversation with your partner and ask them, what are the most important things I need to get done? And it's not from a what specifically you need to get done perspective, but a time frame. So in other words, when can both you and they not be interrupted? When do you have to have it quiet? You don't want to hear the exercise video go on in the middle of a important call with your CEO or your number one customer. All right. So that will really, really help each of you act as a team, because teamwork makes the dream work. So now let's enter in the little darlings, right? If the children are young and if they're preschool age, it is imperative that you and your partner communicate consistently, because things have a game plan, but I guarantee you that will change. But at least you know what you're pivoting from, all right? And again, I cannot be interrupted during 11 to 12 o'clock today on Thursday because I am doing a really special Zoom call and I can't be interrupted. So you are in charge of the children. And then you find out from he or she what is a time where they must not be interrupted. And again, don't assume your partner knows this. Have this conversation either in the morning, but even better, the night before, so you know what you're waking up to. Now, it's very possible that time that was blacked out, that unless hell freezes over, you cannot be interrupted, that call might get canceled. So communicate that to your partner. Let your partner know, guess what? I'm free now. So I can take the kids and you can work uninterrupted. Or would you mind if I throw in that exercise video now? Because if I eat another donut, I'm just going to explode. Anything you'd like to share with that? Because I'm pretty sure you have the young children running around there.
Yes, I'm laughing because I'm wondering if you're hearing the stomping of my kids. I hope you're singing my tune.
I don't. It's quiet.
You're singing my tune, Dr.
I thought maybe you had tape on their mouths.
No, but you really are singing my tune, because my husband, God love him, has our kids upstairs right now so that I can talk to you for a few moments. And, they're young. They're 3 years old and almost 5 years old. And I completely feel what you're saying. And I completely heard what you said. And it's so true. And, I think no matter what's going on in the world, in our lives, finding that balance between your work demands and your family needs is always a challenge. And this is sort of the ultimate version of that challenge. It has been for us, but I think you're spot on with the communication and everything you're saying. And we actually have been very successful, my husband and I, doing that right now. And it's been extremely helpful. There are moments, right? There are going to be moments though, where things go awry in whatever way. How can couples support each other and their children when one of these moments just happens? Because they will.
Okay, and they will. And to your point, if you talk to anyone and they tell you everything is going along swimmingly, they're probably lying. They're probably not telling you the truth. Even if you live alone, this is a challenge, being disconnected. So when things erupt, what I would suggest is try not to take all of these things so seriously. It is not the end of the world. The little eruption will pass, and what I love to suggest is use humor, right? So if your kid is having a temper tantrum over who knows what, have a temper tantrum beside them. They will actually stop and look at you and be like, what are you doing? You say, well, you look like you're having so much fun. I wanted to join in, right? And then later on, when cooler heads prevail, you can revisit what happened. But it's really important to acknowledge, you know what? Mommy and Daddy, we haven't been here before. We are doing the best they can. Now, you want children to look at you as a source of comfort, right? So don't tell them you don't know what the hell you're doing, even if you don't, right? You don't want to tell children that. But you want to let them know that this is a new experience. You aren't anticipating it. And you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have expected you to be quiet for an hour and a half. Maybe that was too much. So I'm gonna work on that. And Daddy and I will talk about that. And how much time do you think would work for you? Get their input. It doesn't mean you'll take their advice, but you want to hear where they're coming from. And let's not forget, children of all ages, they are going through this too. Like, we think we're the only one whose life has been upended. They're not going to school, they're not seeing their friends, they're not going to daycare, they don't have their extracurricular activities. They, just as well as us, don't have their normal defense mechanisms to deal with their anxiety and stress. So we have to remember that and acknowledge that with the children. So the other thing I would say is lax on all of the parenting idealisms, meaning, look, I'm not a big one for kids having the screen, whatever screen it is, be a babysitter. These are desperate times and they call for desperate measures. So if your kid wants to sit and watch whatever it is they watch, and it usually would drive you crazy, let it go. Remind them, oh boy, I heard that twiddlywinks in the background all day long. It's okay now, but sooner or later, it's going to change again, and they will know that. All right, so you really have to be flexible and adaptable with what you expect of the children so you can get their buy-in. Then as you have older children, you can have different expectations. If we jump to the college kids and the teenagers, you might have to knock on their door after 3 days to make sure they're alive. Because you know they've eaten the food because they took the last drop of milk in the refrigerator, but you haven't seen them. But you do need to check in to make sure they're doing okay too. Say to them, are you getting connection for the internet? Is everything working? Because you might think they're up there studying and they're up there doing Lord knows what because they can't get the internet connection, but they're not going to tell you that. All right. And again, ask them, what's working for you? What can I do to help you? Right. And then you have the school age children where hopefully there's online learning and online, video games that's educational for them. But I will tell you this. This is not about teaching your children from home. All right. Forget it. They may or may not learn anything. This is about showing your children how you work through and live through a crisis as a family, supporting each other together. Because when this is all done, your children, your spouse, your colleagues, we really won't remember the nuances of how the day worked out or didn't. But everyone will remember how you made them feel. They will look back on this as adults and say, remember that time Mom was going crazy? Because they'll remember how, wow, she let us eat ice cream for lunch. It was awesome. She would never let us do that. Or, things like that. So remember, they're in it as much as we are, and let them know that this too will pass. You don't have all the answers. Don't be dishonest with them, but give them some comfort and have a routine for them and for yourselves. I don't know if I'm going off topic here, but don't let everybody stay in bed in their pajamas till noon. Don't, grab the coffee from the nightstand and the laptop and start working. So what I've told people, get up, get dressed, and get going. Get up out of bed and make your bed. It's just a ritual that we take comfort in. Control what we can control, right? Get dressed. You don't have to be dressed to the nines like you normally would, but just don't have your pajamas be your work clothes, whatever that means, right? Because it creates a differentiation between leisure and work. And get going, meaning have some designated space where you get your work done and the children get their schooling done. And of course, we might have to share spaces, And again, you have to communicate a schedule. And then there's so much more there, but I think I'm going off topic a little bit.
No, it's all wonderful insight, and really, I know people are just going to be nodding as I was as they listen to this, and appreciating all of your advice, because it really, you're spot on. Really, it's exactly how it is for all the parents I've been talking to, and I'm sure everyone out there watching, no matter how old.
I go crazy when you have experts on that are so theoretical, and I listen to them and I'm like, what world are they living in? You know, like you just tell them to do this, you have a schedule, you stay to the schedule. I'm like, that's all well and good, but that never would fly in my house with 4 kids running around. You know, it's just like, so you have to be real, you have to be realistic, and keep your sense of humor. You know, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. So just, we're all in this together. We all are facing the same challenge. It's a great opportunity to reconnect with our children, to reconnect with ourselves, because we're not running around like maniacs, right? We're all so overscheduled, overworked. We drop the kids off, we pick them up, we run to work, This is an opportunity to reset what's important to us and to get to know our partner and our children, like really know them, so we can live our lives authentically, not what we should be doing. And people are resetting how they choose to work, how they choose to play, and how they choose to educate. That's a whole other discussion. Online learning is here for good, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm not sure, not for the younger children, but you know, you can have one college professor get on Zoom and teach 5,000 people history or English. That's a shift. Mm-hmm. Don't ignore that. If the educators are out there listening, it's here. It's not coming, it's here.
Yeah, so true. Such important lessons coming out of this in many, many, many facets. So
correct.
You know, speaking of connecting with our children, us moms, this weekend is Mother's Day.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you know, it could be emotional for a lot of us who are finding ourselves physically distanced from those special women in our lives, perhaps for the first time on a day like that. How would you suggest we could stay connected to those special ladies, our loved ones, this Mother's Day?
Okay, that's a great question. Happy Mother's Day to you.
And to you, thank you.
Thank you. So to me, I actually think it's not all that difficult. Do exactly what we're doing right now. Schedule a Zoom call. Your parent doesn't have to have the Zoom, your mom doesn't have to have the Zoom call. The Zoom, you can have it and invite them. It's free, I think, for the first 33 minutes, right? So or FaceTime. I've been doing a lot of FaceTiming. Oh, there's my 4 children.
Yeah.
I forget I had that there. Do FaceTime, do Skype. Use any type of electronic remote way to connect that you have. You might need to do a little bit of work with your mom or some other important, your grandmother if they're elderly, but trust me, I can do it. It's not rocket science. You can do it. You just might be patient and let them know the upside is they get to see you. They might get to see their grandchildren. That's always a great bribe, right? So take that opportunity. And then if you live geographically nearby, which I think is really cool, for a lot of milestones, I've seen this for graduations, for birthdays, for anniversaries, people are doing like parade drive-bys. That is so awesome. So be creative and have the kids still draw things and they can show it online. It's just, you know, it's a new way of connecting. And I've had people tell me they've spent more time connecting with their families, with the remote, with the social distancing than they have before. So it's an opportunity to do something different. You might have to schedule it. It might take a little bit more work, but it's really worth it. So you shouldn't have to be alone if you have a cell phone.
Very true. Well, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us today. There's definitely a lot of silver linings coming out of this, and you touched upon them so perfectly. We really appreciate talking to you today and all of your advice.
Thank you. And if you want, I'm all on social media, but my relationship Facebook page is facebook.com/strongrelationships. So jump on there and follow me. I'm on Instagram, Dr. Patty Ann Dublin, on Twitter at Dr. Patty Ann. So join the community and we'll get to know each other better. And happy Mother's Day. And remember King Solomon's wise words, this too shall pass.
Perfect way to end it. Thank you so much. Happy Mother's Day to you, Patty.
Thank you. You too. Be well.
Be well.
And now, let's take a look at what's happening around Masonicare. Thanks to all who watched and participated in the Smile Parade around our Wallingford campus. It was a fun way to show our appreciation for our frontline workers, including medical staff and all of the support staff who go above and beyond every day to ensure the health and safety of our residents and patients. We're grateful to the participating local organizations, our employee team members who decked out their vehicles in a show of support for their coworkers and residents we love, and the local car clubs who all came together to honor these everyday heroes who are working tirelessly to care for our loved ones. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week to our incredible teachers at the Masonic Child Development Center. Thank you for your commitment and dedication to creating an exceptional learning experience for each and every child. We appreciate you and all that you do. Congratulations to Julie, a hospice nurse at Masonicare Health Center, who received April's GEM Go the Extra Mile Customer Experience Award. A family member had this to say about Julie's care. She consistently provided our mom and us with compassionate and professional care. She's a skilled nurse who went the extra mile many times for our family. Finally, a very happy Nurses Week. This week and all year round, we thank our incredible nurses for supporting our patients and residents every day with their dedication, skill, and compassion. Your hard work does not go unnoticed, and we are so appreciative of all that you do, especially during these unprecedented times.
Thank you so much for joining us for another virtual edition of Ageless Living.
We look forward to bringing you more stories about living well as we take this journey together.
And until next time, stay well, and remember, be ageless. Bye.